You feel bloated, but you don't know why. You've got a headache that showed up out of nowhere. Your joints ache, your skin broke out, you're exhausted in a way that has nothing to do with how much sleep you got. Your mood is in the shitter, and you're going through your day trying to figure out what the hell is happening and still coming up with nothing. So you Googled your symptoms, Google tells you 17 fucking terrifying things it might be, and you're no closer to an answer. You go to your doctor, your blood work comes back normal, and you're told you're fine, except you are not. You feel like shit, and nobody can tell you why. Here's something most people never get told. Your body can react to something you ate up to 72 hours later. 3 fucking days. You ate something Monday and you feel it on Wednesday or Thursday, and you have zero idea that these two were connected because who's tracking what the fuck they ate 3 days ago? Nobody. So the connection never gets made, and you keep feeling like shit and not knowing why. And if that sounds like your life, stick around. This might be the video that finally makes sense of it. I'm Debbie, a holistic nutritionist for over 15 years, and what that means is that I look at the whole person, body, mind, and spirit. Food sensitivities are one of the most frustrating things I work through with people because they're genuinely hard to pin down. The medical system isn't set up to catch them, and people spend years living with symptoms they've accepted as just how they are. They are not just how you fucking are. They are signals. Today, we are talking about how to start reading them and where to actually get help. Allergy versus sensitivity, not the same thing. People use these two terms interchangeably, and they are completely different things. And that confusion is part of why so many people go undiagnosed for years. A food allergy is an immediate reaction and hard to miss. You eat the wrong thing, and within minutes, your body goes into a full alarm mode. Hives, vomiting, throat swelling, or anaphylaxis in severe cases. My husband ignored a dairy sensitivity for years because he figured he was fine, until one day his reaction escalated fast. He had trouble breathing, all of the early signs of anaphylaxis. His throat never fully closed, so we got very lucky, but it was close. Enough. It was close enough that dairy was done permanently from that day on. The point is, sensitivities that go ignored can escalate into something a lot more serious. So don't wait until your body actually forces the issue. A food sensitivity is completely different. The response is delayed, hours, sometimes days. Your body's reacting quietly and slowly instead of dramatically and all at once. And because that gap between eating something and feeling it can be anywhere from a few hours to 3 days, the connection is almost impossible to make on your own without paying close attention. This is also why standard allergy tests miss them completely. Those tests are built to catch immediate reactions, not delayed ones. So you go in, the test comes back negative, and you're told you're fine. And you go home still feeling like shit. The tool just isn't designed to find what you're looking for. And it might not be where you think. Most people assume food sensitivity means stomach problems, but a sensitivity response can show up absolutely anywhere in your body. And this is where people spend years getting nowhere because they're not connecting the dots. Headaches and migraines that seem to just come from nowhere, joint pain and stiffness that appeared almost overnight that you think is aging, skin issues like eczema, rashes, breakouts. Your skin, it's an elimination organ, and when your body's reacting to something, it sometimes pushes it out through your skin. Brain fog, unusual fatigue, irritability, low mood without an obvious reason, and one of the biggest ones that almost never gets connected to food, chronic sinus congestion. Always stuffed up, always clearing your throat. Dairy sensitivity shows up this way constantly. People who've been congested their entire lives cut dairy and suddenly they can breathe. It's one of the more dramatic things to watch happen. And dairy, it's hiding in places you wouldn't think to check. Cottage cheese, whey protein, sour cream, cream cheese. It's not just that glass of milk. But here's what nobody's talking about. Sometimes it's not actually the wheat or the dairy or the eggs. Sometimes it's what was done to them before they even got onto your plate. Here's one people genuinely don't know about. There's a company called Appeal Sciences that makes a plant-derived coating applied to produce after harvest to extend shelf life. It got early funding from the Gates Foundation back in 2012, which is where the internet rumors started, but here's the actual useful part. One version of that coating, called Organapeel, is approved for use on USDA certified organic produce. So organic doesn't automatically mean untouched anymore. You can be buying an organic apple that's coated in some shit you've never heard of and you can't even see. That's not a conspiracy. That's just what is allowed under the current rules, which means the eat organic and you're safe advice is not what it used to be at all, which really pisses me off. And then there's glyphosate, the active ingredient in Roundup. You know, the stuff you use to kill the weeds in your garden. It's the most heavily used agricultural herbicide in the world. It is classified by the World Health Organization as a probable carcinogen. And here's the part that should make you pause. The people who apply it commercially are legally required to suit up in protective gear to do it. Gloves, eyewear, often full coveralls. Meanwhile, it ends up on the food that we're eating without gloves or coveralls. Several countries take this a lot more seriously than we do here. A handful of European countries have partial bans, and a few countries have gone further than either the US or Canada has. It's not banned everywhere, but plenty of places restrict it a lot harder than North America does. So before you can assume it's the gluten making you feel like shit, ask yourself whether it might be what was sprayed on the wheat. The food itself isn't always the problem. Before you buy the dairy, consider what that cow was eating and how that cow grain food was grown. This is a much bigger conversation than most nutrition videos are willing to have, but you deserve the full picture. The usual suspects. That said, there are foods that are genuinely coming up over and over as sensitivity triggers, and they're worth knowing about. Gluten, one of the biggest ones, found in wheat, barley, and rye, and hiding in an enormous amount of processed and packaged foods. Celiac disease is one of the most severe autoimmune version and needs a medical diagnosis. But you can have a real reaction to gluten without celiac disease, and it won't show up on a celiac test. The symptoms, they might be digestive, or they might show up as fatigue, brain fog, joint pain, or skin issues. A lot of people cut gluten and feel dramatically better without ever getting a positive test. I'm one of them. Dairy. Remember, it's not just milk. The reaction can be to the sugar that's in the dairy or the proteins, and they show up differently. Digestive trouble, inflammation, sinus congestion, skin issues, that low-grade, not quite right feeling that's hard to name. As my husband can tell you, ignoring it just doesn't make it go away. Beyond these two, eggs. They come up a lot more than people expect. Soy, particularly the processed version, hiding in almost every packaged food. Corn, which appears under many different names on ingredient lists. And for anyone with stubborn joint pain and inflammation that isn't responding to anything else, nightshades. These are foods that include tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, potatoes, so they're maybe worth looking at. One more that's genuinely underknown: if you consistently feel worse after wine, aged cheese, fermented foods, or leftovers that have sat in the fridge a couple of days, you might be reacting to histamine, headaches, flushing, sinus congestion, an anxious, unsettled feeling. If nothing else fits on this list, histamine is worth exploring. This is part of the reason why I stopped drinking wine, because I kept getting that reaction when I was drinking it. My cheeks would go tingly and I would like flush and couldn't sleep for shit. So how to actually try this yourself if you want to start experimenting on your own before you see anyone. Here's where to begin. Oats, they're naturally gluten-free, but they're usually grown and processed alongside wheat. So look specifically for certified gluten-free oats, not just oats. I get mine at Costco, so they are available. For grains beyond that, amaranth, buckwheat, and millet are all naturally gluten-free and worth having in the rotation. Buckwheat especially, despite the name, has nothing to do with wheat at all. It's because it's berries. And speaking of hidden gluten, check your cereal boxes. Original Rice Krispies contain malt flavoring made from barley. Barley has gluten. Rice doesn't. So a cereal that looks like it's just puffed rice is quietly not even fucking gluten-free at all, right there in the ingredients. It's not even a cross-contamination issue, so read the damn box. Brown rice, potatoes, and sweet potatoes are safe. Solid carb bases while you're figuring things out. For protein, if you can swing it, real meat from an actual butcher and eggs from a local source tend to be a completely different experience than the grocery store versions for a lot of people with sensitivities, myself included. Shop local where you can, and keep the Dirty Dozen list in mind when you decide which produce is worth buying organic. It's a decent guide to what is most heavily sprayed. So where to actually get help? Here's where I'll say something your GP might not. If you've been round and round and round with your regular doctor and getting nowhere, find a naturopath or a functional medicine doctor. These practitioners test for things that don't show up on a standard blood panel. They look at the whole picture: gut health, food reactions, inflammation markers, hormone levels, nutrient deficiencies, in a way that a 10-minute GP appointment simply cannot. They're not a replacement for your doctor. They're an addition to them. And for food sensitivity specifically, they're often the ones who finally connect the dots that have gotten missed for fucking years. I'll say this too, because it's real and it's frustrating. In the States, there's been some movement towards taking food and chronic disease more seriously at a policy level. RFK Jr. has been pushing on this, but it's slow in its early days. And up here in Canada, functional medicine doctors are mostly clustered in major cities. So if you're in a small town, chances are you've got a GP, and if you're lucky, someone like me. That gap is real, and I'm not going to pretend it isn't frustrating. As for the food sensitivity tests you can buy online, I'd skip those. The results aren't standardized. They give different labs wild different results for the same person, and a test that flags 20 foods and sends you into a spiral of cutting everything out will do more harm for you than good. So save your money for a proper practitioner instead. The elimination diet is still the gold standard. Pull the most common triggers for 3 to 4 weeks and then reintroduce one thing at a time and pay attention. And I know nobody wants to do that shit because it's boring, but even a rough version, just pulling one suspected food at a time and noticing how you feel gives you more useful information than any online test. Your body is telling you things every single day. You just need to slow down long enough to actually listen. Your body is not randomly falling apart. The bloating, the headaches, fatigue, the brain fog, skin issues, mood dips, these are all signals. They're not just getting older. They're not just stress. They're your body trying to get your attention. And first it starts out as a whisper, and then a yell, and then it becomes a major fucking knock on the door like it did for my husband. You can't ignore these things. You're not imagining it, and you're not broken, and you don't have to keep feeling this way without answers. You just need to start looking in the right places, and now you have a much better idea of where those places are. So subscribe for more No BS nutrition advice, and I'll see you in the next